It's a beautiful January day here in the cut flower garden, so we're going to prune our roses today, and we thought we'd take you through the process of how we go about doing that. We have a lot of roses, as you can see. We have probably just shy of 100 now, and counting, because I can just never stop buying them. And pruning is one of the most essential jobs you can do for the roses for the whole year. So we tend to prune them in January. It's when we've got a nice chunk of time to do it. The kind of jobs of the cut flower garden are not so intense, and it's just before we start the craziness of spring. So we'll prune these all down, we'll give them a good weed, and then we will give them a really thick mulch, and we're going to take you through all of that today, and I really hope you find it useful. So this variety that I'm going to be starting on is one of my favourite. This is Tranquility, and it has got the most gorgeous kind of creamy white flowers in the summer. It's the David Austin one, and we're going to kind of take her back to around 50 centimetres. I would recommend getting some gauntlets. I mean, you will always end up prickled to death at the end, but it's, you know, worthwhile investing. A good, decent pair of sharp secateurs is really important for this. Other than that, you're kind of sorted if you've got your gloves and your secateurs. We're going to be taking these roses down and also taking away anything dead, diseased or damaged, mainly to kind of keep these plants healthy, promote strong growth, and just keep them producing flowers for many years to come. And we have a lot of roses to get through, so I'm not super precious about how we prune. I just tend to make sure that anything, as I said, that's looking a bit sad is removed. So just something to bear in mind is you can kind of see these little buds along the stem. That is going to be where your new growth comes from. So just be mindful when you're trimming your roses of the direction in which that growth is going to come. So for instance, this bud here, if I snip just at the top of that, that bit of growth is going to come out this way, which you might want, you might not. If you're aiming for quite an open structure in the middle of your roses, which is great for airflow, then that might be the one that you go for. Because we have a lot of roses quite close to a path, I'm quite mindful as to whether or not I want these kind of roses particularly close to the edge, giving me that growth right into the middle of the path. But then I also want to be mindful of whether or not there is like too much growth here that it's going to tangle with. So just as you're pruning your roses, it's just good to bear in mind that that bud is going to give you the direction of the new growth. And so, yeah, it's good to bear in mind. We will also, once all of these roses are pruned, give them a good weed, but it's not something that I can do until we have cut the roses down quite short. So you can see that that piece is just completely dead. You don't want anything like that. You just want to get rid of it. And you can kind of see here, we've got, you know, some weak growth there. So I'm just going to cut the stem to around there. And then you're just left with the strong growth there. So this one that I'm pruning at the moment is a variety called Queen of Sweden. And it's a really, really beautiful rose for cutting. It's got these kind of mid-pink, really nicely sized flowers on there, which are really great for things like bouquet work and buttonholes. They're like quite a nice size and quite a straight, upright plant. So you can kind of see all of the stems are super, super straight. But another kind of beautiful rose for cutting. So the roses are pruned, we've weeded the beds, and all that's left to do now is pop down some fertiliser and some mulch, and then that is the roses all prepared for the season ahead. We usually use if I grab it. This is fish blood and bone. So this is what we use as a feed on the roses at the start of the year. It's a really good slow release fertiliser. It's organic and it'll give them a good boost for the season ahead. We use quite a lot of soil improver, which is just garden compost and manure as a mix. So it's a really, again, another good feed and a good top up before they kind of start their major growing season. And that will be applied quite heavily. And we're also in certain areas going to be using this, which is wool. We've saved quite a lot of it from packaging from food orders that we've had arrive at the house. A lot of companies are using it these days. And we've also had a lovely local bakery who have gifted us a load, which is amazing. And this is a really good weed suppressant. We have a lot of invasive weeds in our garden. In the rose bed in particular, we've got a lot of couch grass in certain areas and we have weeded a lot of it out, but it's really hard to get rid of completely. So where we've found a few problem areas, we'll be putting this down and this will suppress the weeds for a season and then will rot down into the soil, adding more nutrients. So it's kind of a win-win. So I'm just sprinkling this on the top of the soil. If the soil was staying bare, I would rake it in or fork it in. But because we're putting mulch on the top of this, I'm just making sure there's a decent amount and then we'll just mulch straight on top. Come on, this is Margot. She's the boss. So the fish blood and bone is down. The next layer is this wool. You could put it on the top, the end of the process, but because we've got lots of cats and squirrels that like to dig, we're going to put the wool down and mulch straight on top of it. And then that's everything for the roses after that. We don't put the wool down every year. We just do it occasionally when we feel like the weeds are just getting a little bit too invasive and getting on top of us a little bit when the summer comes around. So this is just something we do as and when it's needed. We don't only do it for the roses, we do it for other plants as well, just to make sure that, because we have invasive weeds that we can't completely eradicate, it just is something we do as early as possible in the season when it's needed, so that later on in the year we've not got like swamped with weeds everywhere. So that's why we do it. We generally tend to mulch to a depth of around 1 to 2 inches, so we try and keep it quite thick to, again, like I said, suppress the weeds, retain moisture in the soil, and most importantly, feed the roses for the year to come so that we get plenty of gorgeous blooms all summer long. And this tends to be the last stage of the process before we're finished with the roses, and that is the job done.